Our speaker today is Reverend Gary MacDonald from Murphy Harpst Children's Center in Cedartown, Georgia.
This class and this church have been supporting Murphy Harpst, and we so appreciate what you do to make our work possible, from your contributions, from the birthday parties. The last one was amazing, I have to say. And we even got bad jokes at that party.
Look, we believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. And it's true about the blankets. They did fill up my car, and it was a joy. And those blankets were so well received. I have to tell you that when I delivered those, we have a room called the Christmas House. It's kind of a warehousing where we put items that the cottages need, and where we collect all the gifts at Christmas time, which is a major operation. I've seen Santa Claus's job, and I don't want it. But when I delivered those blankets, our coordinator just went, "Oh my gosh, we needed these so much," and the kids so much appreciated them. So thank you for the work you did this past Christmas. This visit today is,
Closer to you.
there you go. Can you all hear me okay? This visit today was a long time coming. I think it was about a year ago, where's Nancy, that we started our conversations about visiting the class. And we said, okay, we can do it in January. And then January came, and we got a snowstorm that kept us away. And that was during the season of Epiphany, if you remember that far back. And I appreciate that you kept the opportunity open for me to be here today. And there's no snow in the forecast as far as I can tell. So back in January, I had picked for a text to share this morning, a text from Matthew 2, the second chapter of Matthew. It's the story of the Magi, if you can remember the Magi, here on Pentecost Sunday, and Herod and the Holy Family. And it's a story about Herod being threatened by the news of this new king being born, and being angry at the Magi for not returning to him, and the Holy Family having to flee their homeland to go to Egypt, to go into exile. It's not a story we usually hear on Pentecost. It's not a story we talk a lot about at Christmas either. But I want to talk about it a bit today. And by the way, your prayer was lovely. Thank you so much for that prayer. And I think it has great relevance to what we're talking about today. So let me read you the text here from Matthew 2. So I'm going to read, I told Nancy we'd read 13 to 15, but I'm going to read a little more at the beginning and a little more at the end of that. Now, after the Magi had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled, because they are no more. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
As I mentioned, that's not a story we often At least I haven't encountered that very often in our worship lives. Or at Christmas. I don't know of any Christmas carols that are about the massacre of children. But it's a story that's in our scripture. The story of the flight to Egypt, when Joseph, guided by an angel, takes Mary and the child Jesus and flees to go into exile to escape the persecution of a jealous ruler. And then Herod unleashes this reign of terror, sending his troops to massacre the children in the hopes of sweeping up Jesus in the mess. The suffering is great. Yet God's purposes for the world's salvation are not thwarted by the scheming of kings. This story describes a reality. On this side of the fulfillment of the kingdom of God, we live in what I call a liminal space, this space of waiting, the already and the not yet. The kingdom has come already, but it's not yet fulfilled. And this is where we live, the space where we live. We often live in a reality that is harsh and opposed to God's purposes, yet we live with our senses and our purposes tuned on God's kingdom, God's mission, where crying will be no more. And I actually sensed that in your prayer this morning about being open to where God is moving us in the midst of the chaos that surrounds us. That God is still present and moving among us in times of trouble and chaos. At Murphy Harpst, we work in that kind of reality all the time. Of hurt and harm that come to children, working to bring hope and healing, to restore the health and well-being of these young ones of God's children who have found themselves in exile. So I'm hoping to share with you some of the stories of Murphy Harpst and some of the work that we're doing and the new work that is expanding that we are doing. And to introduce that, I'd like to begin with a video that we'll show in a couple seconds. This is a video that we made for our centennial. Last year, Murphy Harpst celebrated its 100th year. Isn't it amazing? And we put out a call for stories. We asked for 100 stories. And there's one woman, we got many stories. I don't know if we got 100, but we got several. And one of them was from a woman named Brittany who lives, lives in northwest Georgia. And she told us her story, and she agreed to come to campus, and where we filmed her story. And this is a video that we made that we showed at our gala back in September. So you'll meet a few people from Murphy Harpst here, but in the midst of this video, story of Brittany.
First time back in 21 years, and it's really overwhelming experience. You know, so many things have changed, and there's like so many flashbacks of memories that's going on, and you know, the kids I've met, little crushes, you know, that I had on a couple of the little boys around here. It's just a lot of fun memories. I started out in foster care when I was 8 years old. I got molested by my stepdad, and my mom ended up taking me and my sisters and running to Michigan to follow my stepdad to live with him. And so, you know, DFACS found out that, and I was in school in Michigan, and DFACS came to school, and they took me when I was 8 years old and put me in foster care in Michigan. And I stayed up there for about 6 months, and then I got to go back home and live with my grandparents. And I lived with my grandparents for 6 months. I went back to my mother's house, and then she ended up moving my stepdad back into the home with us, and it was at that moment that something in me just changed. I was a very angry person. I came here when I was 14. My caseworker, Estelle, brought me up here, and I'd been in a lot of trouble. You know, I hated going to school. I hated life in general when I got here. And I can remember I walked in and I met Miss Gigi Bryant, which was my therapist here, and in that moment, like something about her aura, her person, I was like, the way she treated me, I'd never been treated like that before. And I was like, okay, you know, I think I'm going to be okay here.
Children today, no matter what kind of home they have, I feel like a lot of them feel really powerless. And creativity is an outlet to channel things and emotions that you don't really understand when you're an adolescent. So if I can direct them in this room with painting or mosaic or whatever we're going to do, they can direct some of what they're feeling, even if it's a great mood, into creativity.
I'm the equine coordinator, so I work mainly at the barn. We do therapeutic riding. So that's where the kids learn their riding skills, how to care for the horse. And then we have equine therapy, and that's all ground-based activities. And anybody that first comes in, that's what they do before they go into riding, so that they build a connection. Because so many kids are actually afraid of the horses when they first get here. They learn how to be gentle with them and everything.
We create a lot of our activities based on the unique interest of our youth, from religion and spirituality all the way to their intellectual and their creative interests.
The work that's done here is acknowledging each child's dignity as a child of God. Each human being here is worthy of respect. This is a place where that can be recognized and celebrated. That's the beginning of a new relationship with faith, a new relationship with others that can make a huge difference in a person's life.
I finally felt like I was loved by somebody, and I was around people that wanted to see me do good and didn't just throw me out like a lot of the group homes and places I'd been. You know, one small thing and you're gone. And you know, this had been like my upward 30-40 placements at this point in my life. I didn't have any guidance from any kind of a dad figure or anything, and I got that from Mr. Tim when I got here, the rec manager. You know, it was like, he was like, now Brittany, you know that was not a good decision. He was just like, I'm still going to support you and stand behind you, but that was not smart. What did you learn from making that mistake, and what can you do better? It was just like nobody had ever asked me those things. I strongly believe this place changed my life, you know, because in reality, I should have not made it as far in life as I did. Most people, you know, they go down the wrong path, and it was the values that, you know, Murphy Harpst taught me, you know, the responsibilities of you do not have to live a certain life just because something happens to you. You can take steps forward and make your life different. You know, I live a really good life now, a really blessed life. Gigi up there?
Yes.
Oh my God, look at you. Oh, honey. That's so good to see you. Oh, don't cry. Oh, baby.
You may not recognize him all decked out in red, but Daddy Tim is,
Oh my goodness! Hey, girl!
To be able to see her 21 years later was just amazing. She still looks like that 15-year-old. We don't get to see the end, you know? I mean, it's not the end. This is the beginning of her story, but we don't get to see from here. And to see somebody who's doing so great and has good memories of being here means the world.
It brings joy to my heart when I come on this campus and I see the pastoral surroundings and the people, the employees who work here, how devoted they are to making a difference in the lives of these children. And I leave here just full of hope that these children are getting the best surroundings they can possibly get with the best care, and that they will be able to leave here and go out and be productive members of society.
So that's a story of what happens on our campus in Cedartown. Cedartown is, some of you have been to Cedartown several times at the birthday parties, but it's in Polk County, south of Rome area. And our campus there is 160 acres. And it was begun by a woman named Ethel Harpst, who was a Methodist women's home missioner who was sent to Cedartown back in the teens of the 20th century to begin a school for the mill kids. And at the time, there was an epidemic going on. We know something about epidemics. And there was tuberculosis and the flu epidemic. And suddenly kids were losing their families. And Ethel started taking kids into her home. And at the same time, on the other side of town, Sarah Murphy was doing the same thing for her community. Sarah Murphy was the daughter of former slaves. She worked to put herself through Spelman, and she was doing similar work, kind of parallel work. I don't know if Ethel and Sarah ever met, but their work continued for decades. And eventually, through the what was then the Methodist women, merged the two homes in the 1980s to become Murphy Harpst Homes. So right now, I'd like to talk about Ethel and Sarah paying attention to what God was putting in front of them. They set out to educate kids in a school and saw something different happening to those kids, of being hurt and removed from their homes, losing families, and began to bring them in. They paid attention. And Murphy Harpst has continued to pay attention. Through the decades, its mission moved from being an orphanage to dealing with kids who were abused and neglected. And today, we work with kids in the foster care system who have been removed from their homes for one reason or another, often because of abuse or neglect that they're suffering. And if you heard it in Brittany's interview, she's 15 years old. She gets to Murphy Harpst. I forget the exact number, but I think she said, I had 20 different placements. By the time she was 15, she had been in 20 different places and traumatized over and over and over again, shuffled from one place to another, a home and a school. So kids arrive at our campus in Cedartown often angry and mistrusting, and not thinking that we're going to be any different than any other place they've been. And it's often with the horses that the walls that they built up to protect themselves begin to break down, and they begin to trust again and to deal with their issues, to deal with their angers. So we have about 75 kids on our Cedartown campus. We've expanded that recently. We've added a new unit. The state has asked us to pilot a new program with the fancy word, Qualified Residential Treatment Program, QRTP. You don't have to remember that, there's no test after. QRTP is taking kids that have been placed in a psychiatric facility and moving them into an intensive program with the goal of moving them to a place where they can stabilize enough to move into a lower restricted home, either the regular Cedartown program or a foster care home, or even moving back with family. So one of the things that we're doing is continuing to pay attention. In Georgia, there are twice as many kids needing placement than there are places to put them. Twice as many. And at Murphy Harpst, we have 75 beds on our Cedartown campus. We have another program I'm going to tell you about in a moment that has about 25 other beds. So that's 100 beds. Kids, the average stay on our campuses are just under a year, right? So 100 beds, under a year. We get 250 referrals from the state every month. That's the demand for our services. And the state is asking us to continue to try to expand our services, and we are. One of the programs, we're looking at doing an autistic, opening a unit for autistic kids in Cedartown. But the other thing that is so exciting that's happening now is the state is working with us to open what we're calling the Evolve Initiative. The Evolve Initiative is centered around building a small community group home that can house 4 kids at once. And we've opened 4 of these in Augusta. These are based in a neighborhood where the kids go to the neighborhood school. They get 20 hours of counseling and therapy a week. They have a staff that is there full time with them 24/7. And that it's an intensive space that research has shown moves to great success. Destructive behaviors decrease. I'm sorry, I keep hitting our mic. Destructive behaviors decrease, behavior improves, and we have almost 80%, what we call an 80% success rate, meaning that these kids move to a lower acuity facility, or they're adopted, or they're reunified with a family member, which is the goal of foster care. So an 80% success rate in the Evolve program. So right now we have 4 homes operating in Augusta. 2 more, we're cutting a ribbon in 2 weeks on 2 more. So by July, we'll have 6 homes operating there. And there are 2 more planned by the end of the calendar year. And the state wants us to open more in other hot spots around Georgia, and we're looking into that, including, I might be saying more than I'm supposed to here. We're looking at opening some homes in Gwinnett right now, and then we're looking at South Georgia right now too. So high success rate, and it means we're paying attention to what the needs are for kids in the state of Georgia. And the state is continuing to come to us to do that kind of work, because we often take the kids no one else will take. And our goal is to stabilize them to a place where they can begin to move toward healing and wholeness. Now, we say the state is coming to us to run these programs. Unfortunately, the state doesn't give us all the funds we need to run the programs. They give us about 75 to 80% of what we need. The other 20% comes from our fundraising, from grants and donations, including the generosity that this class has shown year after year after year. And I know many of you have been involved in the work of Murphy Harpst for years, and we appreciate that so much. It enables the kind of work that we do. One of the stories I heard just recently about one of the kids in the, it's later than I thought. One of the kids that we have in the Evolve program is a young woman named Riley. Riley was born in a Haiti orphanage and was going to be adopted by a family here in the United States. So she came to the United States, and in the midst of the transition, the couple decided not to adopt her. So that's traumatic, right?
You bet.
And so she was moved into foster care, and she was in foster care 7 years before she came to us. And she had 7 different placements in those 7 years, not as many as Brittany. 8 different schools. And when she came into the Evolve home in Augusta, she hated school, was suspended from school in her first 3 days on campus. Since that time, she's been working with therapists to deal with her trauma and her abandonment of her childhood and bringing up coping skills to live in community. She's currently getting all A's and B's. Now, Evolve has only been around for a year and a half, so I'm not sure when she came into our program, but it's not that long ago. She's getting all A's and B's. She's on the soccer team, and she just joined ROTC. So it's a major shift made possible by our work together. So I just want to say how much we appreciate the way you enter into that work, not only with your treasure, but your whole bodies. At that last birthday party, that one was over the top. I was there, and one of the birthday kids said, "This is the best party I've ever had." Sometimes it's the first party they've ever had, but this was the first and the best that they've had. You've set the bar at a new level. The gifts and the games that we played were just wonderful, over the top. We have a new coordinator of our community engagement, a gentleman named Robbie Rusciano, who some of you met at that birthday party. He'll be working with this class as well for events that are coming up. He joined Murphy Harpst about a year ago in our rec therapy office, but came to our office about 2 months ago. And I think he had been there just a couple weeks when he did the birthday party. So that was a wonderful introduction to this class for him. So I'm just about out of time here, but I wanted to open up to any questions that you might have. Yes?
You've had a program for the kids who age out of Murphy Harpst.
Thank you.
Can you talk about how big that is and how it's going?
Right, it's called Transitional Living Program, TLP is how we refer to it. We have 15 kids in that right now. It's on the Cedartown campus. We have 3 kids in college. Mostly the other kids are working. This is a program, you age out of foster care at 18, but the state allows the kids to stay in until they're 21 under certain circumstances. And so our transitional living program goal is to move them to a place where they can learn independent living skills. We're also looking at expanding that program and actually trying to build an independent living facility where we give housing to kids who have aged out and they live independently with some monitoring, but largely independently. So that's a real issue, because when kids age out,
Where are they going?
where do they go? And there's not a lot out there for them. So we're looking at some new programming there. It's probably a little off in the future, but with part of the success of the Evolve initiative is kind of driving some of that discussion.
Good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Is the average stay in a foster home less than a year?
You know what? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. Sorry.
Sounds like most of the stories you have, the kids move around every year.
Yeah. Often the kids that are coming to us have major behavior issues, and so that's hard. And one of the difficulties is if there's a kid with a behavior issue that gets wrongly placed in the foster care system, it not only traumatizes the kid, but it traumatizes the family. And often that family is lost to the foster care system. They say, I'm not taking another one. And we want to avoid that. Yeah. I'll try to come up with an answer to that. I won't make one up. I will try to find one. Yes.
Now, did I hear that with the aging out program, they try to help them deal with things they haven't dealt with before, like finances and stuff like that?
Yes, and then all the kids in Cedartown are learning life skills as we go along. They're doing their own laundry. They're doing some cooking for themselves, although not a lot. But in TLP, they're kind of independent on campus. So yeah, and we have one story about a young man named Dylan. He entered into TLP at 18. They have access to phones at that point. He met a girl online in Florida. Guess where he went? He went to Florida. He left the program, went to Florida. 3 months later, he called us back. Said, can I come back? We had to do some work with the state to allow him back into the system. And he did come back. And today he's going to Columbus State College, working on a degree there. Nice young man, yeah.
You said you needed 20 to 25% in addition to state funding. How much is that in round numbers?
It's a little over $2 million a year. Yeah. And I looked on our records this morning. We're about our fiscal year ends at the end of June, and we're about $50,000 short of our goal. I think our goal this year was $2,017,000. Yes, $2,017,000.
So you can always use
$2,071,000. I'm a pastor, I'm not a mathematician. So.
You said Augusta is a hot spot. What's driving that?
You know, I'm not sure the details of that. The state asked us to look to Augusta, so the state knows those pieces. We ended up bringing some folks involved in child welfare together there, and one of the impetuses were one of the state court judges there, juvenile court judges, said, I keep getting kids coming in front of me and I don't have anywhere to put them, and we're having to put them in hotels. And right now I think there's 75 kids in hotels around the state. I'm not sure of that number, it might be higher than that. But that's expensive and ineffective. But it's a last resort. And so when beds open up at Murphy Harpst, they get filled as quickly as they open up. So. Yes?
Mention the material you put on the table.
Oh, yes. I put some material over here. Our latest newsletter is over there, which talks extensively about the Evolve program in Augusta. There's a sheet over there if you want to be on our mail list. You can sign up to be on our mail list there. And couple other items, some pens and some pads of paper if you need to take notes sometime. So, but thank you so much for your time today. It has been a joy to be here, and you know, please invite me back. I'll come back anytime. So, thank you so much.
Awesome job, Reverend Gary. Awesome. What a great program you have up there. Obviously, next year, Claudia, who helped you organize the birthday visit? Was it Annie?
Mary and...
Yeah, right there, back there, yeah, okay, so you guys are working on next year already? Okay, so, okay, all good. So be on the lookout for next year when we host the birthday party at Murphy Harpst, okay, so. But I also want to recognize one other person in our class who turned me on to Murphy Harpst. And she used to collect these little bottle caps, and she collected these other things and these other things. And she'd get up here every single week. Let's see if I can do this. Now I want you to bring in this cap, and I want you to bring in this, and I want you to get that, and get that, because we need all of these bottle caps and pull tabs for Murphy Harpst, and that's Betty Hunt. Betty, both Betty and Larry have been super with Murphy Harpst, and we thank you for your efforts. You know, we are truly blessed. Leslie and I, and many of you in this class, God has graced upon us beautiful families, phenomenal grandkids. There are so many young people who need help. And as Reverend Gary mentioned, 250, not a year, but 250 a month. Quick math, 3,000 a year, and they can't accommodate but 5% of that. So your support, your help really goes a long way. Because you know, when I worked in the city, we used to have all these different programs and intern programs. And I had one director who said, Jeff, if we can take 10 of the kids who are going to end up in jail and not put them in jail, but put them where they're productive, we'll save more money than we can do to build another jail. Yeah. And I never forgot that. So get them young, make them strong. We are so blessed that we see the benefits and the graces that God has provided. Over the weekend, I and many class members attended a friend who we play bridge with. He had a celebration of life service for his darling wife who had just passed away. It was really interesting because she had actually planned the entire service. And she said one thing above all, which I felt, wow, what a neat way to plan your final service. She said, I want it under 40 minutes. And it was amazing. It was 38 minutes long and we were done. So she got her final wish. So you have a great Sunday. Enjoy the day the Lord has made. Amen.